It's official!
Welcome to this week's episode of Legally Unapologetic. I am your host, OMG. Last week, I had the opportunity to sit down with mom, wife, lawyer, superwoman, Tara McMillan. And during that discussion, we talked about Tara's journey as a mother, as a wife, as a lawyer. She talked about the importance of balancing. And she also talked about the importance of putting your mental well-being before anything. Now, through my conversation with Tara, we talked about her pivot away from private practice to now in-house counsel, which allows her the opportunity to not only be a great mom and a great wife, but also continue to focus on her interests and hone those skills as a great lawyer. Again, it was my pleasure to have sat down with Tara, and I hope you guys really enjoyed that conversation. And one thing Tara and I discussed was that there are several women who have been able to balance, set boundaries, and stay within the law firm. And they're successful. So this week's episode, I'm giving you guys a 2-for-1 special. And I'm sitting down with not only one, but two individuals that have balanced motherhood while also practicing law within a big law firm. Now, both these ladies have had incredible journeys, not only in the practice of law, but also in motherhood. And I wanted to feature them together, not only because of the great dynamic, yes, we all know each other, but because their stories and their journeys, both professionally and personally, are truly unique. So this week, we're talking grit, we're talking determination, we're talking strength, and yes, we're talking balance. These women and their respective stories are truly remarkable. And I am fortunate to not only call them friends, but also call them sisters in the law. Motherhood in the law, it is truly a balancing act. I hope you guys enjoy this conversation as much. I promise you're in for a treat. Now, without further ado, let's get to it. Welcome to another episode of Legally Unapologetic. Ladies, welcome to Legally Unapologetic. I am so happy to be here with y'all. I'm excited about this episode. We've been talking about this since January, right? And honestly, I have to shout y'all out. Both of y'all are looking a little bit better than the host, but I'm gonna let y'all slide. Fresh off of hair appointments. I'm sure some makeup was done, but you look good. So thank you for coming onto the series and, for agreeing to talk about motherhood in the law. This is going to be a good one.
Yes, thank you for having us.
This is going to be a good one.
Yes,
So,
I think it'll be fun.
Before we start, for the listeners and the viewers, the screen behind us, of course, technical difficulties. You got to love technology, but we're going to roll with it. So we're just going to move forward. So I want these young ladies to be able to introduce themselves. I'm going to give y'all the space. Tell our listeners who you guys are. Tell us about your legal background. And yeah, guys are moms, so tell us about your little ones.
Well, my name is Tanisha Pinkins. I'm an attorney at a big law firm in Atlanta, Georgia. I currently practice in mergers and acquisitions and sports and entertainment law. I have a 19-year-old daughter who is currently attending college at LSU. And I had her when I was 17 years old. She went with me to undergrad. We stayed on campus in family housing, so we literally have been on a journey together for a very long time. And she also attended law school with me, so we've had lots of long nights, long days, sleepovers in the library, and it's just been a really rewarding and humbling experience overall. And I guess we'll get into more details later.
Absolutely.
Yes, and my name is Montoya Ho-Sang, and I'm a partner here in Atlanta.
Partner.
At a law firm here where I practice higher education and collegiate athletics.
And some litigation.
Some litigation occasionally. And I have two younger ones who are 6 and 3 years old. And I decided my motherhood journey started a little later in life after I had been practicing for some time. And then my husband and I decided to have children at that point. But motherhood is a journey, you know. There are, you know, the great times, you know, but then there are also the not so great times. But we'll get into that. But it is something that I'm just absolutely grateful for, and you know, I have found some ways to make it work, but it's all trial and error.
Absolutely.
So,
well, that's what we're definitely going to talk about. That's why I wanted to bring you guys on to this platform. You know, we're all practicing attorneys. One of the questions that I hear a lot, and hell, I've even questioned it myself, how do we make this work? Motherhood, practicing law, elevating a partnership, and that's kind of what I want to explore with you guys today. But before that, I have to rewind because I like to start my episodes just saying, you know, who my guests are to me and the relationships that I have. So Tanisha and I, we go back to 2019.
Oh my goodness, no, I think 2018.
Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think it was 2018.
We sat on a panel together, writing letters to our younger selves, right?
Yes.
And it was, you know, a very intimate conversation, kind of emotional, just talking about our transitions into the practice of law, right? And what we would relate to our younger selves.
Yes, it was deep.
It was very deep. And I just remember, you know, we bonded immediately. Yeah. And then we ran the streets of Philadelphia together. But that's okay. Like, we had a great time.
Running the streets. We weren't like running the streets. We did a Philly cheesesteak promise. I don't
Fair enough. Let me stop. That's how rumors get started. We were doing a cheesesteak crawl together. I forgot who I had on the show. I was getting my P's and Q's. But, you know, ever since then, she's been my sister, you know, sister-in-law. And I joke because she was also on the recruiting committee to have me come to Atlanta. So that, you know, was definitely just having that support system, especially when I moved here. Was something that was extremely big and huge. So I've always supported or always appreciated, who you are in my space, in my life, and that sisterhood.
Yes.
Montoya. So we had the pleasure of working together.
Yes.
You know, and honestly, I was so happy to see your face on the website when I decided to transition to the Atlanta office because there wasn't that many Black people, and let alone Black women, right? Mm-hmm. So I think we immediately bonded just over that. And, you know, throughout that year and a half that I came back, you know, before I slowly but surely transitioned out, you know, you were definitely a confidant and you were definitely a sister and a friend. But I have to share this story on air because a lot of people don't know it. You were one of the first people that knew I was getting ready to leave, but it's because you saw it. So you yanked me up. I know you remember this day.
Yes, I remember.
I was walking through the hall. I probably wasn't looking like myself. I probably was going through it. You yanked me up. You put me in your office. You closed the door. What's up? And it was a real moment for me. It's like, okay, somebody's seeing me. Somebody's hearing me. This gives me the space to just say, I'm tired. I'm ready to, you know, I got to do something.
I'm just happy that you felt comfortable to do that.
Of course. Yeah. But, you know, it goes to show the importance of having that support, even if it's in a professional space.
Which is difficult.
Very difficult.
Especially in this space.
Yes. But, you know, I appreciated you then. I appreciate you now. And even throughout that whole transition, I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about leaving. Okay, I'm going to leave. You were very supportive and you never, like, once questioned the decision, but you supported because you knew I needed to do what I needed to do for me. So thank you.
That warms my heart. But you know, that's a real thing though, because it's difficult to have like a safe space to talk within these walls of big law firms because everything is so like under wraps and there's so much red tape and so much like hush hush, and it's like you kind of just have to persevere and push through. And it's almost like you're afraid to let anybody know you're going through anything because it's seen as like a disadvantage of some sort.
Or a weakness, right? As women, we don't want to be perceived as weak. And, you know, a lot of times we shoulder a lot. I mean, you guys are shouldering a lot, right? That's why we're here to talk about it. But because we shoulder so much, we try to hide what's really going on. And it's crazy because there were people in the office, people probably were seeing me, but they were probably like, okay, she's just passing through. But to have somebody...
business as usual.
Put your head on your shoulder and be like,
Come here.
Come
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Come here.
So-
That may have been the mother in you, right? I don't consider you, you know, you're more like my sister, but it was definitely needed. And I know that, to Tanisha's point, it's something that's needed in this space. So thank you for serving as a light, but also, you know, as a support, not only to myself, but I'm sure to many others in this profession.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank
so
you.
sweet.
Yes.
Oh, guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, and I know we'll talk about this a little later, but Tanisha and I also have a little history.
Yes, please.
you know?
Let me not ignore that. Please share with the listeners how you guys know each other, because the dynamic here is
It's
real.
full circle. Full
It's a full circle
yes.
dynamic. Even the fact that y'all wind up getting connected is crazy. But I actually met Montoya when I consider myself a baby lawyer. And to be honest, I had the similar experience that you did, because when I got to the firm, she was the only black female, the only black person in our office. That was another attorney at the time. You remember that? Everybody had left.
Oh yeah.
You were the only one there when I got there.
Right.
And so I too was like, okay, thank God there's somebody here that I can at least talk to, relate to. And then sadly she left like a few months later. but
yes.
no, it
But-
was
Right. When you did your summer there at that
summer there,
firm,
yes,
and
yes,
then when
yes.
she came on as a first year associate.
That's right.
And we also went to, I think our history actually starts a little bit before that, when you were a law student.
Yes,
And we went
to
to the same law school, and
Yes,
so I
look
would
at
go
this.
back.
Look at
yes,
this.
and do work.
There's
like
so much
here.
history, and it's like full circle, like you said.
And actually, to be honest, like I remember us talking we were at a GABWA meeting for the banquet or the gala.
Okay.
And that's how we actually met. And found out we went to the same law school, and we were working on a gala chair. I was like the ambassador for Emory Law School.
Right.
She was like, I think the fundraiser chair.
Yeah,
right,
I was the
that
gala
year.
fundraising
And
chair.
so we actually
that
talked
year.
about that then, and even before I interviewed, like she was like a resource to me when I interviewed for the firm. To talk to people, kind of, you know how you need people to kind of help you get prepared for what you're about to deal with. But she was also that for me before I even started there as a summer associate. Then I was a summer associate. Then I became an associate, and then we're all out here doing our thing.
So it's interesting then to see the full circle moment, right? And to see the progression in you both, right? And the elevation, recently minted partner here. And then now you're mid-level to senior associate, despite sometimes the chaos that comes with life. And you guys have an extra layer of that because, as we mentioned, you are mothers, right? Tanisha, your journey is a little unique. You shared with us, you know, the experience of having a child at the age of 17, but I'm curious as to how that allowed you, I don't want to say allowed you, but maybe inspired you rather to become an attorney, and what that looked like for, you know, a young mother navigating some of these spaces.
I would say I just always had very clear vision about myself, my future, and what I wanted to accomplish. And even when I was 17, like there were a lot of people who were like, "Oh, you should just go get a job at Burger King." And I was like, "What? Like, why would you even suggest that?" Like, I'm still going to college. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I think I was so young at that time. Like, what they were saying to me sounded so crazy, but I also started to realize as I got older, like, when you just have a different type of energy, you just have a different type of vision, like none of that really fazed me. I felt like then I could still do everything I wanted to do. I just thought my road was going to be a little bit harder.
Right.
But I kind of accepted that early on. So like even at 17, I was like, okay, I actually had college offers before I found out I was pregnant. And then I knew I had to pivot because I'm like, well, I'm still going to go to college. I'm going to college, but I have to bring my daughter with me. So those schools didn't have campuses where you could bring your kid. So that I had to take a year, step back, and kind of figure out, okay, what schools can I apply to? I was on a waiting list for multiple schools, and the first school that became available, I left. I was like, okay, I'm out. I took her with me, and I started working. I started school in like, I think it was 2007, 2008. And then I also realized like what comes with that is like, okay, I still have to take care of this kid and take care of myself. And like, yeah, so I ended up working 3 jobs.
Oh, wow.
Going to school full time.
Wow.
And, you know, my daughter was in tow with me like everywhere I went. You know, like sometimes she had to come to class with me. But, you know, it was definitely a process. And sometimes when I look back on it, I'm thinking to myself like, wow, like how did I do it all? And I'm like, yeah, God.
Well,
But one thing
That's the only answer.
Yeah, one thing I've always known about you, Tanisha, is that you are very determined.
Right.
You have never let anyone stop you for doing what you set your mind to do. You've always been, since I've known you, very, very determined.
And it's amazing too. Like I have to pivot and give a shout out to my little niece. I don't know if you want me to drop her name, so I won't. Right, but she's 19 now at LSU, and the job you did, sis. Like, you know, despite the odds, she's an amazing individual, amazing kid, smart kid, future doctor. Putting that in her ear, right? Because I think she's going to school for that.
No pressure, no pressure.
No pressure. But you know, that's something you should be proud of, and I think that it definitely serves as an inspiration. I mean, look, I'm an aspiring mom, right? And I'm like, damn, I hope I have the guts and the ability to do all of that. But even for people that's thinking about, how do I get into this space, which may be the practice of law, but sometimes that's difficult. But I also want to live my life, and that also means I want to, have the family. I want to be the mom. I want to be the wife. Yes. And sometimes it's not always easy.
No.
And you're like, okay, well, guess what? I had an extra layer of it. I did it. Went through college, went to law school, took the bar. Can't imagine doing that. But,
Right.
And still now you're at one of the top law firms here in Atlanta.
Yes. I mean, it's crazy when I think back on it sometimes, and I think I don't reflect enough, maybe, because sometimes when I hear someone else saying it, I'm just like, wow, like that was a crazy journey, or, that really is a lot, and maybe just trying to reflect on that experience. But even having her with me through the bar, when you just mentioned that, it took me back. Because I'm like, we took the bar. I'm like, no, we took the bar together.
Yeah.
Like, and actually, when I found out I passed, like, I actually went up to her school and surprised her to tell her that I passed, because she was with me every day, 12, 13 hours in the library. Literally, I'm like, hey, you guys, here's your little iPad. We bring in lunch, packing lunch, but we here all day, all night. We would go around. I went to class at like 9. Got out around 12, would get her library by 3. We would leave 2, 3 a.m. Plenty of nights. You will recall sleeping overnight with me in the library. Because I'm like, I just need to power through this.
Right.
So we're going to stay, and I'll just take you to get breakfast in the morning. I'll get you ready for school, and I'll drop you off, and I'll see you in the afternoon. But it's things like that where hearing you say that just took me back, like, wow, like, that was a crazy journey for both of us, and she's my trooper. Like,
she is, and
she's my trooper.
Right. I mean, and the point is that you did what you had to do.
Right.
But I feel like that is what motherhood brings, which is also what makes me a great lawyer.
Right.
Because sometimes you just have to grit and like grind and get through it.
Yes.
And it's just like that is law.
Yes.
But that's also motherhood, because there's always this whole talk about like, oh, working moms and you're less dedicated. To me personally, I think having a working mother makes you more focused because you want to get in there. You need to do your job because you know that you have to leave to go pick up your child from daycare, pick your child from school, maybe get some dinner, on, spend time with your child.
Right.
Because that's a part of parenthood.
Absolutely.
And then once you put them to bed, then it's like, okay, well, now I have to finish my work.
Yeah.
And so like people don't give working moms enough credit because we are doing it all.
I agree.
While still working to pay the bills and also working because to me being a present mother was something that is very important to me. I never want my child to look out into the audience and not see a familiar, like if she's having a program or my son is having a program and not see a familiar face. Yeah. And there are some days where I can't make it, but it's like I have a village.
Right.
So if I can't be there, then your dad or your aunt or, a family friend or someone will be there to support you.
Makes sense. So I'm laughing. As you're saying it, I'm laughing because Montoya's serious about that schedule, y'all. There were several times, I'm going to Starbucks. You want to come? No. What? Why are you? She's like, not that. I just got to go at 4.
Right.
I have to be out of here at 4. And she was like, so when you get there, Octavia, you start having kids, you'll get this. You won't have those long Starbucks breaks. You won't be doing those lunches because guess what? The 12 to 12:45 that you want to go and get your food, I could be knocking out some emails because I know at 4 o'clock I'm going to have to go. And it was real. You know, I stopped asking you to go to Starbucks. I just started bringing it back. Because it's like, you know what? I got you, sis. I got you. You still need that caffeine.
I do. All right.
So, but Montoya, so tell us a little bit about your little ones, because you're doing it in a more traditional way, right? You're a newly minted partner. You're elevating, right? And you're actually, you know, going through the fires. Very major accomplishment, by the way. Going through the fires of what it takes to become a partner. Only Black woman partner in Atlanta, but that's not, we won't talk about that. That's another episode. You're going through the fire to actually become a partner, but you're, to your point, having to manage these two little ones, which is not an easy task. How old were your kids when you, I guess, were, you know, transitioning from associate to partner?
At that stage, I had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Right.
So it's also like dealing with having very young kids who are still like coming out of COVID, you know, and us still transitioning that, you know, trying to expose them to new things. Like my son, he's a total COVID baby. Like he was born, in 2019, you know, and so, and so he spent a large amount of his like growing up, infanthood to toddlerhood, at home with me because we were on lockdown, you know, and I was like, I don't even want to go, like I'm having PTSD thinking about the COVID days where I had to like work and be a full-time mother all at the same time, you know, and but for me personally, it's having a village, you know, and making sure you set your boundaries. You have to have boundaries because if not, things will get all mixed up. You'll just be out here flailing everywhere. But you have to be able to say, look, from this time to this time, I am focused on getting this job done and being dedicated to that, you know? And then once I finish doing like my legal work, my, you know, the things that pay the bills, then I have to dedicate this time to being a mother and being, you know, being a wife, you know, managing my house, you know, and all the things that come with that, you know, all the intangibles. Like, I love my husband, but he doesn't know when book character day is. Like, he doesn't know that the kids need to bring cupcakes, you know, and these are all the intangibles that people don't speak about. You know, people are just like, oh, well, yeah, you just got to feed them and, like, make sure they, like, have on clothes. And it's just like, no, it's more than that. You know, meanwhile, I have an answer to file. Meanwhile, I have a client that's, you know, calling me at 8 p.m. because they're having an emergency on their campus. You know, but you have to put on those boundaries. And I know we've talked about this. Like, I'm extremely protective of my weekends.
Of course.
Because, and that's something that I had to develop over practice. Because especially as a young attorney, you get into this mode of, I want to do great at this, you know, whatever it takes, I'm willing to do. And Tanisha, I'm sure you had to put up those boundaries very early on too in your practice, because you had like,
I had to, like, literally, like you're saying, like, when you have a child, like, you're really not in control of your schedule. Your schedule works around their schedule. And even with my daughter, like, she was like in grade school at the time, but she had to come to my job every day, and in a way I kind of hated it for her, but it was like she would be there at my job until I finished sometimes. But then I also tried to find that balance where it's like, okay, then I also want her to be at home sometime, because this is not a normal life for kids. So it was like trying to find that balance, but it's like she gets out of school at a certain time and she's out. There's no like, hey, she's just hanging. No, you have to be there, get the kid where they need to go. They have to eat. You know what I mean? It's like all of these things, homework. And that was another thing for me that was challenging, because even though I was practicing law, it's like her homework was my homework. And so I'm like, okay, but this is the process. So I had a tray. I'm like, put your homework in a tray. And then I'll look at it at night and then make any corrections, edits, we'll go over it, and then I'll give it back to you, make changes before you go to bed. But it's like you had to have all
supervising partner over here.
Supervising partner, in the household.
I mean, but literally, like, those were the type of things I had to do to just try to, one, keep myself together and make sure I'm still involved and engaged with everything she has going on. But it's like all these other responsibilities on my plate too. So it's like, I can't just work all day and go home. I have to really do her homework. God forbid she had projects. And I'm like, the projects were so intense to me because I'm like, we gotta write a how many page paper? Like, wait, we gotta do a whole presentation? We gotta do a PowerPoint? And I'm like, okay, she would be in the law library with me when I was in law school. And I used to have her practicing her presentations in the law library. I'm like, no, go stand at the podium, where we would practice our oral arguments. I'm like, go stand at the podium and practice your speech. But I'm over here trying to like read through notes. It was just a lot.
Right.
It was a lot. But you do have to set boundaries and kind of make sure you allocate that time, because with a child, you are going to have to be there no matter what, especially when they're in school or they have daycare. Like, they're out when they're out. Like, that's just what it is.
And the thing about boundaries is that you have to also respect your own boundaries. Yes. Boundaries don't work.
That is challenging. Okay?
Struggle
Boundaries
sometimes.
don't work when you don't even respect your own boundaries, when you're constantly letting people come into this time that you have set aside yourself, even your children,
Right.
Because self-care, and I know that's something that you are an extreme advocate about.
Yes, ma'am.
It's very, very important, especially when you are a working mom and you have to juggle so many different balls. You have to make sure that you allocate time for yourself.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's
Thank you for reminding our listeners and our viewers of that.
I was just going to speak to it. I think that was one of my biggest struggles. Like, when I first started practicing, like, I feel like the first 3 years, like, went by. Like, they came and went, and I was like, wait, 3 years just went by? Because I didn't have, like, really any boundaries outside of, like, having to care for my child. But in terms of work, I just felt like I was being, like, I was just always available. And again, we kind of, like, trained to be in this space where it's like, you're always available. Like, you're never really off. And so for that matter, I think I did not do a good job at all.
I know you didn't.
Setting boundaries.
I saw it. I'm not about to sit here. I don't think no, you didn't. You did not. I saw it.
It's still working. It's still a work in progress now, because it's still like there's this high demand in our profession where it's like, even though you want to, sometimes it is very, very challenging to find that balance. Like, what can you really, really get done and what can wait? And then trying to make sure like everything is also just being taken care of and that everything's done at the highest level. So I think that is something that I think in our field in general, like, it's just a struggle, but something we need to prioritize.
Amen.
Very much.
Now, let me ask you, ladies, have having children changed your career trajectory? And if so, in what way?
I don't think that it has changed my trajectory. It's just changed the way that I practice law.
Okay.
Just because as a young partner, my focus is on business development. I have to bring in new clients. I have to do this certain piece, and so which requires me to go to conferences, to be away from my children. But then I think about the way I have worked around that is because I do have a partner who's very active in our children's lives. Luckily my mother loves being a grandmother, so she will come up here and watch the kids if I have to go out on a conference to help out with my husband. My sister lives here, so I have a village here, which I will say having that is definitely has helped me to be able to do what I could do, in my career.
Right.
When we first had our daughter, we didn't have that many family members that lived here, and not having a support system and not having, I can't imagine going to college and not having a family member to watch your little baby, because you just don't want to leave your child with anyone.
Right.
No.
Which is why I'm sure she probably came with you to a lot of places.
Yeah, she was with me most of the time.
Right.
My sister ended up transferring to the same school as me, I think for a year. So it was really nice to have her there, because I worked like overnight, 11 to 7. And so it was definitely like challenging, because you don't want to just leave your child with anybody. I mean, I had a few people that I trusted on campus, or other mothers that I met who I felt comfortable, because you have to have childcare, right? Like, I have to work 3 jobs right now, so I have to figure this out. But I mean, it was difficult though, but having trusted people around. But when I went there, I had nobody. Like, it was just me and her, like, let's go. So my schedule really, again, worked around her schedule for the most part. So I attended classes from 9 to 12, and I would work 1 or 2 of my part-time jobs from 12 to 5 or 12 to 6. She had to be picked up by 6. So I'll pick her up from daycare. That's when I got home, feed her, take her bath, and then do my homework, and then spend some time with her, and then try to sleep and go to my job at 11. A lot of times I didn't sleep at all, because I felt like if I fell asleep, I wasn't going to wake up in time for work. So it was literally like, and I was working as a 911 operator, so it was like, you really have to be alert. Like,
What do you mean by an easy job?
I was also sad I was saving lives. Superhero. Like,
It was crazy, but I mean, just all of those things you're saying, like trying to put everything in the pocket. It was just like I was just constantly going. Like I didn't have any room for error. I didn't have any room to stop. It was just constant grind. So it was challenging. I don't even know.
But you made it happen, right? And like we mentioned, now she's in college.
Yeah.
So now, what does the career look like for Tanisha? Because now you're able to switch it a little bit, right? Whereas I guess the first 3-4 years you're just in grind mode, and to your point, you had to share that time and actually get her off to college and get her across the stage, and they're like, okay, now I'm an empty nester.
Yeah.
Most people are like, okay, cool, I'm an empty nester, but I know you and I know how you think. So you're an empty nester. You're like, okay, now it's time to grind.
It's
Right.
That is 100% where I'm at. I'm like, I'm gonna lock in right now. Like it's time to lock in. So I'm actually taking this time to just invest more into my career, because I do feel like I try to find a balance with like work hard, play hard. So I've done things, but I definitely feel like I can like be like razor sharp precision and just really lock in on the things I want to do in terms of development, expansion, business development, like all of those things. And also just making sure I expand, as much as I can. So it's a different space to be in, because I don't have the like, I feel like I have to be home. Because sometimes even if I wasn't doing anything necessarily, when you have a child at home, you just feel obligated to be there with your child. And so now I just have a little bit more flexibility. It's still fairly new to me, but I'm kind of going with it. It's going well so far. Okay. So far, so good.
Right. Enjoy this time. Because I feel like I had that time like at the beginning of my career, even though like my husband and I, we were married for 8 years before we even decided to have children. So I remember, we enjoyed each other, and I enjoyed, actually working and bringing in a little money. We could take vacations and we can, I can hang out with my friends. I can do shopping. So I had that freedom at the beginning of my career, which was great, which at the time that we decided to have children, we were ready to like settle down, focus on them and do what it took to be the parents that we wanted to be.
Right. And now, I mean, what's next for Montoya? Because you're at the start of this pinnacle of what everybody, if you're in private practice, you're striving to become a partner, and you've accomplished that. So again, we're gonna give you your flowers and your kudos, because there's not that many Black women, right?
I'm like, can we please highlight how important and how big this is?
That is a huge, and I know, I'm about to say, we keep saying it.
Yeah, a large law firm is so rare. Like partner is rare, but a Black female partner it is extremely rare. Please add the statistics like somewhere in the class so they can understand like
I
how
believe it's like a 2%.
It's
2%, right? 2%
I don't know.
All women or Black women across the country actually make partner. You think it's less?
No, I think maybe 2% are lawyers, maybe.
Okay. We're gonna fact check that and
statistics, because I think it's way less than
that.
And
I will include that in the outro as well as in the description for the video.
Yes, 2 female lawyers. And then I think you should add a statistic for Black female.
I got you. That will be in the description for the video.
and specifically to large law firms, because there's another dynamic there.
This is what happens when you interview lawyers. I can't get my question out. But I got you, sis. She is definitely
going to make sure this is identified appropriately.
I promise y'all.
That's the only way
I promise y'all by tomorrow, 5 p.m., I'm going to
this.
receive this from Tanisha. It's going to be bookmarked. It's going to be cited. Like, the citations are going to be there. I promise you. And she's like, don't forget to add this. I got you.
That is hilarious.
But because you've reached this pinnacle, right? And it's like, so what does it look like now? Do you keep going? And how do you balance? Because I'm speaking to a lot of working moms, right? And the gist that I get is either there's going to be some days where you're a great mom, horrible lawyer.
Absolutely.
Or a great lawyer, horrible mom. So for our listeners and our viewers, like, how do you find the strength to actually balance it all?
For me, my faith is very important to me. I start each morning with doing a daily devotion and having like my quiet time, which is also a part of my self-care.
Yes.
You know, because as a mother, especially those early years, you are totally dedicated to your child. Like you are feeding them at night. I don't even want to talk about a newborn and going to work the next day off of an hour and a half of sleep, you know, or 2 hours of sleep, and still having to function at that level that you're expected to function at. But for me personally, I start each day with a devotion and quiet time, you know, praying or thinking about my day. Then I move into, I have become more dedicated to goal planning, and not just huge, you know, goals that are very, you know, like, oh, I want to do, you know, $1 million in business. No, what I have been doing more recently is becoming very intentional about breaking down those goals into quarterly goals, and then from there, weekly goals. And then everyday steps that I take that I'm inching more closer and closer to that overall goal, you know? And so every morning, and I have a script, my mantra, you know, that I read every morning.
Montoya's mantra.
Yes, you know, that I read every morning. It's like, these are the skills that make me me. You know, these are my Clifton strengths. Like, these are the 5 top things that I strive on and that I'm great at. And I'll look at that list every morning and then cite my mantra, have my big goal of what I want my life to look like in 10 years, and think about that.
Taking notes.
You know, like I read that every single morning. It's in my notes app, along with a few affirmations, you know, of how I want my day to go, you know, and it helps give me that reminder before the grind starts, before I'm up making breakfast, before I'm getting the kids ready, you know, for me to really take that time to say, okay, I have the ability to control this day as much as I can, you know, and I want to start this day off knowing that I'm focused and I am going to hit each and every one of these goals and have that reminder, like, these are the large things that I want to do in my life, you know, and what that takes is like time, focus, and consistency today.
Okay.
So
that's preaching
That is one for the books. Like, that's 2 books right there. Take notes, please.
Please take notes.
Do.
I mean,
what you have to do.
It's been a journey though. Like, you know, I haven't been doing this for, you know, 15 years. This is something that I've really implemented within the last 2 to 3 years. And I think that I have seen exponential growth in my career and my personal growth because of that.
Yes.
But it all comes from, like, it's the whole airplane, put your mask on first. Because I started taking time for me first so that I can be there for my husband, be there for my children, be there for my coworkers, be there for my clients. I have to take care of myself first.
Yes, no, I think that's perfect. And I think, to your point, it's like I'm sitting here listening and I'm like, the things that I've done has taken time for me to get there. But then when you have a plan in place that works for you, it's life-changing. But when you stick to your rhythm, like, I'm a morning person too, so it's like, that's my time.
Sleep.
I know, I don't. You know what? Anybody that knows me that is watching this right now is going to say, yeah, when do you sleep? Like, everybody around me thinks it's crazy. Like, my mom actually called me a few weeks ago, and I was like, I'm actually going to bed. She was like, oh, all right, well, let me get off the phone with you, because you never sleep, so the fact that you're going to bed, I don't want to talk to you. But I had to still learn, like, how to develop a plan and a process. And so I do something similar, but I kind of do a daily program where I kind of try to prioritize like 3 tasks for the day that I'm absolutely going to do. And I try to like tackle the more difficult tasks early in the morning, because in our field, you think you know what your day is going to be like.
No idea.
And it changes quite frankly right away, right?
Yes.
So I mean, I've done those type of like systemic, like organizational processes have been very, very helpful for me. But when I wasn't doing them, I felt like I was literally just running a rat race, like, oh, I gotta do this, do this, do this, this. But it makes a huge difference. Like, I think hers is a lot more formally organized.
Yes.
And I'm actually gonna take some of those.
Right. I'm over here like,
No, I think that's great though. But I think just for anybody in the profession, these are the things that I do think help you become very successful, because I'm just a little bit more clear.
right.
And also just writing things down and sometimes just crossing it off the list, knowing that it's done, also kind of gives you that reinforcement that, okay, you're actually moving through something and getting things accomplished. And that's always like a big deal for me, like getting things done. Like when something's done, I'm like, boom, done. And it makes me it prepares me to move on to another task.
And it keeps you focused.
Absolutely.
In this profession, to Montoya's point, you have to be very focused.
And discipline.
Discipline
is
you
important.
know, some
Like-
nights you might have to, stay in the house.
and staying up late night working together.
We have
before,
stayed up,
literally,
but it's like, a lot of people, especially, in our personal spaces, sometimes they don't get, okay, I can't go out tonight. Dinner sounds great, can't make it,
Right.
or even something as small as the gym. Like,
It's
I
hard.
can't, I'm not going to be able to participate in this workout tonight because, I have to stay focused, I have to stay disciplined. If there's a deadline, but to your point, the personal goals are also very important.
Yes.
And I think that too often in this space, we neglect our personal goals for our professional goals, which ultimately leads to some of our demises.
Mhm.
But, I will say that, how do you guys stay focused and like really tuned into yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually and physically?
I would say I'm looking for a personal assistant right now. So if anybody know anybody, let me know. Because that's part of what I'm struggling with a little bit is just balancing my life with work life.
Okay.
And work life is intense enough. Like there's so much to do all the time. It almost feels like you don't have time to do anything in your personal life. So when you're talking about protecting your weekends, I was laughing in my head because I'm like, literally, I feel like I work all week and then I have to get everything done for me on the weekend. So it's like, okay, do this. But now I have to go run the whole weekend trying to get all the things I need to get done for myself. That is just difficult to do during the week. And so trying to balance that out is a work in progress for me. But I also think my spirituality it definitely keeps me grounded and centered. Like even if I'm like not in church every Sunday, even if I'm away too long, I just get like, I need Jesus. Like I need to be and I need to be in that space. I need to like feel that presence and to help keep me grounded and centered. So I do feel like I'm just very humbled and thankful to God for just getting me through everything I've been through in life. But I know for sure that is where a lot of my strength comes from and where my help comes from, and that is what is keeping me grounded.
I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said before, my faith is something that's very important, which is why I start my days with some prayer because it takes prayer to make it through.
Girl.
These days, and like to your point, like it's not balanced. It's like it's not like, oh, I got everything checked off my list by 4:00. Now I can go and like do spend time with my kids. It's like no, I'm a true believer in making lists. My life is filled with lists. But you do check the things off that you can get done. And I have my list of things I need to get done. And if I don't get it done at that moment, I know, okay, I have to take a break from this to go do my motherhood thing, to do whatever. Don't throw in a practice here or there. with the kids, like my kids collectively are in 6 sports, and
together.
So, yes, so 3 and 3, because
oh my goodness,
where do you have this energy?
Where do you have the time?
Oh, because they're young, so they have plenty of energy. But mom and dad don't have the energy to keep up with them. Then they have games at 9:00 in the morning on Saturday. So but it's a balance, So while I'm spending time with them doing that thing, at 9-10 o'clock, I'm logging back on to do my work, and on those weeks or those days where it's like, okay, well, now I really have to get focused. Some days I don't go to bed until after midnight or 1:00 and then up at 6:00 in the morning, like doing my thing, But I know that there ebbs and flows.
Yes.
Which is why when things are a little slower, I take full advantage. No, but to your point, like I had a conference last December, and so I came down a little early just so I can sit in the hotel room and have, quiet time because it's rare.
I believe it.
And during that time, I also planned out some things for the first quarter, because it's also hard when you're trying to have that personal growth to find the time to actually do that between everything else.
Right.
So you have to sneak in those quiet time moments.
And I will give you that. I'm giving you a hard time because we went to DC last August.
Yes.
And he didn't want to hang out with me, and I was like, wow.
I hung out with you the first night. I just
first
didn't do
night.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
But it's like Friday. Like, no, Octavia, I'm going to sleep. I'm like, okay, so you don't want to go get coffee during the day at work, and we're out of town, and you don't want to hang out. Like, dude, you really like me now. I'm like, But I appreciate that, and I think our listeners and viewers definitely got a lot from you guys today. So this has definitely been insightful. I look at y'all and I see super women. I think that it takes a lot to do what we do at the level that we do, but also to balance life outside of work and the chaos that comes with it, even if that's in the form of 2 or 3 little bundles of joy that you call children, right? Because to your point, when you welcome another life into this world, now you're responsible for several lives, including your own. And that sometimes is what really sparks that grind, and you get up and you do what you need to do. But also at the same time, it's like, okay, I also know I got to do what I need to do for them.
Yes.
Right. And that's important. So
can I just say one last thing?
Yes.
I just want to make sure this is very clear, and I just want to share this from my own personal experience, that anything is possible. You can do whatever it is that you want to accomplish. Just because the path doesn't look clear and it doesn't look like everyone else's does not mean that you cannot get it done. And so I say that just specifically, like being a young mother, I was surprised by some of the doubters or people who just thought that I couldn't do what I wanted to do. But going through it and actually experiencing the journey for myself, you have to be able to pivot at times, but anything is possible. You can accomplish whatever it is you want to do, and never, ever, ever be afraid to bet on yourself.
Amen.
That's all.
I couldn't have ended it better. Look, I always bet on you because you're going to do what it takes in order to win.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
So, ladies, this has been very insightful, and thank you so much for coming on to this episode of Legally Unapologetic. Before I let you guys go, though, please tell our listeners or our viewers, for those that may be watching on YouTube, how they can actually follow you guys or where they can find you.
I'm on LinkedIn at Tanisha Pinkins, and you can find me on Instagram at tpink1908_ESQ. That's tpink1908_ESQ.
You gonna hold up your finger? I thought you was gonna do this.
little idea.
And for me, you can find me on LinkedIn at my name, which is Montoya Ho-Sang, HO-SANG. And on Instagram, I am HE_ESQ.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having us.
This has been fun.
This has been
Aw.
This is
Oh, I guess
perfect.
I'm gonna get into
Sorry.
this. Oh, I can't stand that.
Yeah, now keep me
All right.
So there you have it. Balancing motherhood while also navigating private practice surely can be done. Of course, it takes patience, determination, grit, focus, strength, and as Montoya reminded us, a lot of prayer. But it also takes setting boundaries. Figure out what it is that you can and cannot tolerate, especially when it comes to taking care of your business outside of the workplace. I have to thank today's guests, Montoya and Tanisha. Ladies, you both have remarkable stories and remarkable journeys. And not only as colleague, but as a friend, I've been fortunate enough to have people like you in my space. Thank you so much for how you guys have poured into me, but also given me the opportunity to pour into you guys as you grow, not only as mothers, but also as working professionals. I'm extremely proud to call you both sisters in the law as well as friends. Thank you for being a great example of what Black Girl Magic looks like and setting the tone for everyone that's walking in this profession. Now, as my co-counsel said during our interview, I wanted to provide you guys of the statistics. So the rundown, guys, I was wrong. 2% of all Black attorneys are elevated to partners, and that means men and women. But out of that 2%, Black women make up less than 1% of partners in this space throughout this country. Clearly, we have some work to do. Listeners and viewers, before I let you go, I have to run down some of the key takeaways that I received from this week's conversation. Never be afraid to set your boundaries while also making a plan. Remember what Tanisha and Montoya told us. You cannot truly be successful, especially in this type of space, while also navigating life and at times motherhood without having a plan. Set your goals, write them out, figure out how you're going to execute. Even if that means having a village, finding yourself a support system, taking time for yourself, investing in yourself, but also investing in the things that matter to you. And for working moms, that is nurturing and raising your children. Of course, before I let you guys go, I have to leave you with some encouraging words. As the Honorable Jackson stated during her confirmation hearing before her appointment on the Supreme Court, you don't have to be a perfect mom, but if you do your best and you love your children, things will turn out okay. Listeners and viewers, I want to hear from you. If you have not done so already, please follow us on our social media. We can be found on IG. The handle is Legally Unapologetic. That's all one word. Or feel free to follow me on my personal page, OMG_ESQ. And videos to today's conversation are available on YouTube. I'm releasing shorts as well as the full-length video. So please make sure that if you haven't followed Legally Unapologetic on YouTube, you go over to YouTube and you subscribe to that channel. I hope you guys have been able to get as much out of today's conversation as I have. Look, I am not a mom, but I am an aspiring mom. And one of the things that I always wonder is how to make it work, especially in the demanding fields that some of us are in, including the practice of law. But I have people in my village. I see it around me. I know women who are doing it every single day, and they serve as great examples for me. They serve as role models for me. And I truly believe that with determination and grit, we put our head down, we'll get any and everything done. So I encourage you all to do just that. The next couple of weeks, set those goals, set those boundaries, take some time for yourself, and continue moving forward. We all are capable of any and everything that we put our mind to. With that being said, it has definitely been a pleasure. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Legally Unapologetic. Until next time.